Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Monkey Factory eSports podcast. My name is Filip, otherwise known as Raka, joined today by Adrian and Matush on this lovely Sunday afternoon. Today is the first episode of the previously mentioned Monkey Factory eSports podcast, where we are going to be discussing eSports, specifically looking at the economy of eSports and also if eSports are real sports. Of course, a heavily argumentative debate where we disagree immensely. With that, gentlemen, did I miss anything, or can we begin?
Yeah, we could begin.
Yeah, let's begin.
Alright, so ultimately, question number one has to be, is esports a sport? Now, before we begin the arguments, everybody just say their opinion, some little democratic vote. I vote for yes.
I vote for no.
I also
100%.
vote for no.
Alright, so we've got a 2-1. I've lost. So I hate democracy now. But anyway, I will present my case, however, and I think that
Right.
esports are a sport because, at the end of the day, it is an argumentative topic, and I'm willing to see both sides of the argument, where I can see why people say it isn't and why people say it is. Of course, it requires less physical preparation than most, if not all, physical sports. But also
Just less.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, if you look at some of the top pros, they do have like physiotherapists and all that to sort of help them to improve with the, let's say, the endurance part of esports, specifically looking at long-term games and basically being able to reach sort of the peak performance at a longer period of time. So most professional teams, like, do have serious, like, warm-ups and workouts and all that. So I do think that sometimes it can be seen as less. But also, to basically add on to that, it does still require a certain amount of physical preparation, and most importantly, it's a mental thing. It's very similar to chess in that it is a mental sport. You have to be, in most cases, you have to be very mentally prepared, and in some cases you need to be physically prepared. If you look at mostly, well, for example, sim racing and motorsport esports, or that weird bicycle league that I can try to find now. I can't remember what it was called, but I try to find it now, which was also an esport, which had a cheating scandal in the very first time that they ran it. Yeah, it was called the UCI Cycling Esports World Championship. I can pull it up later.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That's fair. And if I may
Yeah, go
say
ahead.
something, I mean the chess point was actually pretty good because a lot of people say that chess is a sport, and that's also a very debatable topic. But like in my opinion, I wouldn't consider chess a sport either. I think that's just a mental strategic game. But I wouldn't consider it a sport by any means, and I don't know.
Fair enough. I mean, it ultimately does depend on how you look at sport. I think if you don't
Yeah,
see
definitely.
esports as a sport, then I'm willing to accept the argument that esports aren't a sport either. But for example, if I can try to find some highlights of this really weird cycling thing, I've got it now. I can pull it up on the screen. You guys won't see it, but the people at home will.
That's fair. That's fair.
And so I've pulled it up now. And so we can see that basically they do have these sort of these bikes that do actually simulate the esports. Basically, it is quite literally a biking esport. And for some reason this is not cooperating. Yeah, apologies about that. But as I said, biking and also sim racing plays a huge part in esports, and they need to be physically prepared because ultimately it does simulate the real life driving experience to a very close standard. So I think those guys I would definitely consider athletes.
I mean, it's a very subjective topic here, especially. Well, it depends what you view as sports. Like, you know. It depends.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like personally, I just cannot consider an activity where the people are just like sitting at a computer a sport. Uh,
Yeah, definitely.
and for that same reason, I can't see chess as a sport because I just don't think there's any physical activity really involved
Mm.
in it. It's mostly just mental.
Yeah, and like there might be some physical
Yeah,
preparations
like
for some of
a
them,
little
but
bit.
like compared to the physical preparations that people had to do for like actual athletic sports, it's not really that much. So
Yeah, I mean, I think I think the problem, or so the root of the issue, stands from the fact that esports as a term is just incredibly general. So you're looking at it, you've got basically, it's like if you called every single sport in the world just sport and just had that bunched up into one. Because much as as much as esports obviously used to be like people standing around arcade machines, it's evolved so much over the past couple of years that now you're at a point where there's so much. There's, you got like sports games, you got the sim racing, as I mentioned, you got like proper, like the cycling division and all of that sort of bunched into one, and it creates a statement where it's like some of it I think I would definitely consider an athlete, and some is more argumentative. I think the root of the problem stands from the fact that esports as a whole is just way too general nowadays.
mhm.
So you,
Yeah,
so you
I mean,
gotta. Sorry.
Yeah.
I could definitely see the people doing the cycling as real athletes because I think it involves a lot of physical activity.
Hmm.
But if we compare it to like I don't know CS:GO or Dota, I just really can't consider those real
Yeah.
sports.
I absolutely agree. I've sent it now. I've sent you the video of it to into the chat for you guys if you want to have a look at it now. That's the cycling. I've already shown the viewers at home.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Like in this case, it's undeniable that there is some physical activity there. Like in this case especially, but as Matur mentioned, there are other games that are considered esports and they involve like rarely any physical activity, but yeah, it really depends on what you view the term sports as.
Yeah, I guess it does come back to that. It's just what you view as sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree on that. So I guess can we come to the agreement that it is in some cases it
In
can be
some
considered a
cases,
sport.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And it's a very subjective topic anyway, so
Yeah, I mean that the entire argument is subjective anyway, so
hmm
there's no right or wrong here.
definitely. Yeah.
Mm, all right. With that, can we move on?
Yep, we can move on.
All right. So the next segment is basically the economy of esports, if I remember correctly. And if it's worth starting an esports career now. With that being said, I'd like to start
Okay.
by saying that esports as a whole has obviously evolved a lot over the past couple of years even.
It's still
Um,
relatively new though.
I'd
Like
argue, I mean, I think calling it esports, that's sort of the new thing. I
mhm.
think obviously video game championships have been around since the 1980s, but
yeah.
I think
So just
yeah, I think that it's more that esports as a whole, esports recognizing esports as esports is now becoming a new thing, and with that, I mean, obviously, following the fact that it's starting to be referred to as a sports, it's be starting to be treated as sports with franchising and all this, but ultimately, the problem facing esports is it's still not profitable. Looking at specifically
mm,
organizations, so basically, if these teams that are running it, they're not profitable. They're either losing money, barely turning even, and it ultimately comes down to I think a couple main things. One thing is that one advantage that regular sports have over esports, even though some of them perhaps may not have the numbers anymore to sort of back up their high earnings, but the one thing they do have is the fact that they have broadcasting contracts with like these massive TV networks that are worth millions, billions of dollars, while most esports championships, hell, pretty much all of them, are streamed on free to watch, YouTube, Twitch. I mean, I can go to YouTube or Twitch right now and look up the ESL Pro League final from Counter-Strike, which is happening right now. I could watch that for free. I technically wouldn't have to spend a single cent to watch all the teams play and see all the scores and get all the analysts and all of that. So I think the reason that ultimately not Counter-Strike, esports, are having a harder time turning a profit is because they are essentially built on a free-to-watch model, and they're not yet fully like privatized and fully monetized, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that is a fair point. That's definitely a fair point. And also when it comes to like starting a career there as a player, well, that's also a very debatable thing because like it's undeniable that esports are becoming more and more popular over the years, and a lot of people have had thoughts like maybe I could get money by just winning at a video game, but like the amount of time that one would need to be good enough to actually be accepted into that.
Mhm. I mean, yeah, it is a massive time commitment, but also I will obviously defend esports to the grave. And so
Obviously.
sort of looking at that, I think that it's not that much different from any other sort of sport or career that you're pursuing. Because ultimately you're gonna have to have dedication and you're gonna have to put in the hours into whatever you do.
That's a
Um,
fair point. That's a fair point,
I
but
mean, I would.
I still think it might be more safe to like go into sports that have been established for several years now. Like that would be a safer route in that case because esports is still brand new. It's still, well, not brand new, but it's becoming popular right now.
Matsushi had something to say, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, I would argue that if you try and become like a professional in like a real sport, you at least get something out of it, even if you fail. Whereas
Hmm.
in sports, I feel like it's kind of just wasted time if you don't make it,
Yeah.
because
Exactly.
you need to play for hours and hours every single day,
Uh,
and most people like still don't make it in the end.
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely. I think that is a completely fair point. I agree. To be honest, I do think that, you know, I've sort of tried both. I've done both. And absolutely, I mean, I think ultimately pursuing a career in esports is a high risk because, as you said, like if you don't make it, it's like it's pretty much just time wasted. It's the equivalent of getting an English degree, really. That really it was just time wasted.
Yeah.
Or gender studies, that's worse. Um, but yeah, like I think ultimately the the thing that I'm looking at though is I think there's as an individual there's a lot of ways to monetize video games, especially recently, more than just being good. Um, like looking at, for example, Twitch, you can be a content creator, which
Mhm.
doesn't, I mean, of course, there's obviously a sea of content creators that are very good at the game. They're very skilled at whatever they're, creating content for. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be at the top, like 1%, top 0.1% of players. It just means you sort of have to have an understanding of what you're doing and also just be entertaining. I mean, if you look at certain players from for example the Counter-Strike scene who are perhaps not the greatest players of all time, they don't have the best aim, but they still are able to produce content that is just entertaining or educational in some cases. It ultimately depends. Um, so I think there are a lot of ways to monetize yourself in video games compared to, like, I would say normal sports or like, yeah, normal sports.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Um, yeah, or nothing. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I kind of agree, but like still, the statistics to actually making a career as a pro player are very low.
even as a streamer, I think
Yeah.
it's pretty low.
I
So
mean,
like maybe if it evolves later, then it might be more worth it. But at the time, I still think it's extremely risky.
Because like even on Twitch, for example, if you have like a couple hundred viewers, you're not gonna be able to live off of that. I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
it's
mhm.
very hard to get into that, like not top tier of streamers, but like getting up there, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think well, being a content creator is hard in general, just because you have
Hmm.
to have a certain level of entertainment and a certain level of just being able to present yourself
Yeah.
in an entertaining way. But also, I mean, I think if you want to be a content creator, you either hyperfixate on something, such as, I can think of Counter-Strike streamer, France J, who is just a guy that just plays on really low ranks and just bunny hops around the map. It just has really good movement, for example, but he's just doing it for fun, just doing it
Mm.
to just be entertaining. It's not necessarily you're impressed with what he does, but it's also like he's not trying to make a career out of it. He's just trying to be entertaining. Um, and I think even better examples are guys that we can go back as far as 2012, even the early days when you look at, for example, Call of Duty, and sort of how that started with just these montages of people yelling, hitting like trick shots or something, and that sort of evolved. I mean, that's what Face Clan started as. Um, and also, like when with content creation, I think another key thing is being able to branch out. So if you look at creators like Smitty or the Russian Badger, who aren't necessarily good at anything. I mean, they aren't particularly skilled at any video game they play, but um, what they have is the ability to branch out and just be entertaining with themselves and with the people they're playing, rather than
Mm.
you just being amazed at how they play.
Yeah, and also a good way for content creators to like jump on an opportunity is to like see what's popular at the moment, what what opportunities they could take to get a higher viewing.
Absolutely. I mean, all
Yeah,
you need to do is just look at sort of what Minecraft did in the
yeah,
early 2010s and then what Fortnite did in the late 2010s, and sort of how many careers that was able to start, or maybe boost, not necessarily start. I mean, both, really. I think a
yeah.
lot of.
If you find something that's like right for starting at the time when you want to start, like then it might actually go well.
I mean, it's all about jumping on the bandwagon, really. If you're just
Mm.
if you're a quote unquote cloud chaser, then you just have to sort of take the opportunity as you go. I mean, there's loads of examples, especially from Minecraft. Like, I feel like Minecraft started a whole subgenre of jobs, just from its existence, even to this day. Just maybe
Yeah.
not as large as it used to be.
Mm. Definitely, definitely.
And Fortnite, I think Fortnite more helped boost careers rather than start them. If you look at someone
Mm.
like Ninja, who was playing competitive Halo in 2007, nobody knew who he was.
Yeah.
But became popular then, and there's other, like, obviously various streamers, various players, who even till now are relevant figures in, gaming.
Yeah.
I think that's the goal for a content creator, to go beyond, oh, he plays Minecraft, oh, he plays Fortnite. He is a gamer. Because that
Yeah.
effectively, it's a really stupid term, but it boosts you to a level of almost like immortality.
Mm.
If you look
Hmm.
at certain if you look at, for example, the Diamond Mine card, right? Started it as he was opening Pokemon cards. Then Minecraft came, he jumped on that. Then Fortnite came, he jumped on that. And he built his sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Sort
Foundation.
of base, but yeah, foundation. He built his foundation on Minecraft and then just expanded to a point where now everybody's gonna watch whatever he puts out.
Yeah, like
So
whatever game
exactly.
nowadays.
So that's,
A
I
lot of
think,
them watch it for him at this point.
yeah, exactly. And that's
But
your
that's,
goal.
I mean, yeah, but in that case, like, there's a lot of other aspects of this. Like, to be a content creator like the Diamond Minecart, you have to have a pleasant enough voice, so people will actually want to hear
I'm,
you commentate in all the videos.
I mean, of course, but that comes back to what I was saying, that you have to have a way of presenting yourself
Yeah.
if you're not good at the game. Um, but then you look at, for example, people who have sort of merged it. You look at what Dream did in 2020. You know, kind of basically was able to present himself in a way of all the SMPs and stuff. I don't know. I never paid attention. But sort of also showcase his skill with, for example, the manhunt videos and the speedrunning. Like, that's what got me hooked, just watching his skill. But then some people got attracted to his ability to present himself and these other people. And I guess now another point pops into my head, which is basically networking. In that space, being able to create sort of environment where there's a lot of creators kind of doing the same thing on the same page, sort of helping each other grow. I think Vanos Gaming is a good example of this. Or what's the I forgot it was Sky Does Minecraft, but I forgot the team that sort of he built around himself. I'm gonna look it up now because I feel ashamed for not knowing this. Wait, it was obviously Team Crafted, and so basically Team Crafted sort of was this thing where there's multiple creators. Pretty much they were uploading the same things just from different perspectives. But it was entertaining enough to the fact that people could basically pick a side and sort of work with them. And that helped each of them grow individually as well as everyone at once. And for that reason, networking is also a really important thing. And I think a lot of channels, especially the ones that we were talking about before, like the Russian Badger Smitty, sort of grew on the fact that they just had a lot of people around them to make it more entertaining. I mean, with Smitty, for example, he's pretty much a general YouTuber, just does all kinds of games. I feel less interested in watching a video of him, like of him playing a game on his own, than just watching the whole team, because it's just more entertaining. So I think if you're trying to make it the solo way, it's a much harder thing to do than when you have friends or just like community members.
Definitely, like, sometimes a good group dynamic can actually help and will make it more entertaining for people to watch, because, like, even if you do a solo, eventually it might just be hard to figure out what to say while playing.
I mean, yeah, but also I think you shouldn't be too not committed, but too stuck on too focused on the fact that you're a group and fail to grow your individual brand.
Yeah, I mean, that also sort of goes back to the point where we made that you should be able to branch out, like, not just be stuck to that one thing that you're initially known for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I definitely agree, yeah.
Absolutely.
This was an interesting jump from esports players to content creators.
Because it's in the same branch. It's pretty much like...
It is in the same branch, yeah.
You're ultimately looking at the same sort of thing, but it's gamers, You look at it as gamers, but, like, a lot of these people are either, let's say professionals that didn't make it, professionals that are retired. I mean, hell, there's so many professional players who have retired or just, kind of phased out that are now content creators. I mean, Shroud, Get Right, Forest, there's a whole list. And I'm just thinking of Counter-Strike, right? So I think there's just that content creation and esports are pretty much interlocked. Because I think if you want to make an esports living, you have to become a content creator.
Yeah.
I think unless you're in the, like, top 10 all time, all that stuff, you're just not going to be able to make a living.
Yeah.
Without a certain amount of, ability to grow your own brand. Because ultimately, people who, if you're really good at something, people are going to watch you because they want to know how you play. Like, I did this as well. I've watched a bunch of players to just, like, know what they do in certain situations, how they react, trying to sort of mimic what they do. And that's just a huge thing. Like, that adds a lot to your ability as a player to sort of market yourself. Because also what, for example, Twitch does is it adds leverage. You're wanted not just because of your ability, you're wanted because you can help that organization grow. I think the best example of this is FaZe Clan. I mean, FaZe Clan I think started as like, a Call of Duty team, like a bunch of guys just forming a team for the memes, you know? But it grew beyond that, and it's more about the content creation than the esports. Like, of course, FaZe Clan is still very good in like Counter-Strike, and I think they probably still have a Call of Duty team, among others. But they have so many like I'd argue even random content creators who sort of work for them or work with them, that they've sort of transcended the point of esports, and they're now just sort of pop culture thing. I don't even know at this point. Same with 100 Thieves, for example. They have Valkyrie, who's a Twitch streamer. I think they have what's her name? Tenz's wife. I can't pronounce it. But she's there as well doing content, and like she's okay at Valorant, but nobody's watching it because she's a good Valorant player. And yeah, it just comes back to that. Like, I think your goal as an esports organization is definitely to not be an esports organization, if that makes sense.
It kind of does.
Yeah.
It kind of does. Yeah.
Just have so many people on board that help you make the brand, because it's it's capitalism, it's the modern world, branding matters most. So yeah, I think just being able to build a brand, whether it's an individual or it's a team, is just super important. Especially in profitability and attracting sponsors, and all that stuff.
Like relying solely on just esports that would not be a good strategy.
Yeah, and also just relying on prize money, for example, just isn't going to work, because you're not going to get that consistent stream of income. But also, it kind of falls under, I'm not going to say it should be a responsibility, but the creators of these games sort of need to assist the organizations or assist the players in actually making it. I think a good example of this is, for example, what Counter-Strike does, because they have, and I can show it for the people watching this, but basically, I think everybody's heard of Counter-Strike, and basically what they have is these every tournament, every Valve sanctioned tournament, so it's like major. They basically have, if I can pull it up now, they have the basically professional teams and professional players have their own individual stickers that you can like put in the game to sort of show your support or whatever. And basically what that does to some, not all, definitely not all, but some of that profit goes to the organizations. Specifically, like, I don't know, the ones that are, being opened. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but, they receive a certain amount of support back, and there are genuinely organizations that can live off of that. Like, I know that in Australia, for example, the team that basically makes the major from there can quite literally survive just off of that sticker money. So, like, it comes back to, you have to be the best, but realistically, it's like, if you're able to, also, I mean, technically, if you're able to brand yourself, market yourself in an entertaining way, and then be good as well, people are going to buy those stickers because, well, one, they want to support you as a player because they think you're really good, but also they want to support you because, I don't know, you're their favorite player because you make good jokes, or you're just able to present yourself in a way that makes you entertaining beyond your ability to play a video game. And I think that the sticker system, or just generally assisting these organizations, should be in every single major esport. I think most teams do it. I think most games have it. I know Overwatch has it. I know Rainbow Six has it with the skins for weapons. Matush, help me out here.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Um, and I think that can also support an ecosystem where the teams don't have to constantly pull out or lose interest, because that's exactly what happened in 2020, for example, where, for example, again, I bring back the Australian scene. We lost everybody. Like, every single organization basically dropped out, ceased to exist, because, simply put, there wasn't any money. There wasn't any money going around. No sponsors were interested because, well, no one cared. And as a result of that, we lost literally all of the organizations. I think maybe a couple stayed, obviously. In 2020, Renegade stayed, Order stayed, but unless you were that top level in Australia, gone. Goodbye, see you never. So, I think I think esports as a whole, especially bringing it back to Counter-Strike, just with the whole sort of that terrorism being a key part of the game, being celebrated in a way, like subconsciously. It draws away a lot of companies just not wanting to be involved with that. And that could cripple a scene. I mean, like, that could cause just, when there's not enough money going around, nobody's gonna do it.
Of course.
It's gonna be a part-time thing, and you're not gonna get the skill. Basically, what happens is when there's no money, you have to do it part-time, which there's no skill, so then you can't get to that top level, and it's just, you're stuck in a vortex of nothingness.
Yeah, I mean, understandably, because the amount of effort that you need to put in to actually get there, a part-time thing would not be enough for that. That's for sure.
There's only so much you're willing to sacrifice when you're not getting paid.
Part-time thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because obviously there's a difference between a hobby and a professional.
Yeah.
Commitment, wise, especially. So, to summarize, esports. So I'd argue, and you guys can have input on this. I'd argue that esports as a whole is not yet at the level where it can be considered profitable. For organizations, and then for individuals, there are things you can do to make yourself profitable and basically grow a brand, even if you're not the best player at the game. But ultimately, there is a giant opportunity cost and that risk factor when committing to it. I think I've summed up what we've discussed pretty well here.
Yeah, all of it, basically.
Alright, any other inputs that you guys might have?
No, I think all has been discussed at this point.
Yeah, I think so as well. We've discussed the organizations, the players, and everything. So with that, shall we close shop?
Yep.
Alright, well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Next episode will be out next week, hopefully with a better presentation than a Windows 95 background. And with that being said, I'll sign us off if you guys want to say goodbye as well. So,
Goodbye.
See everybody, and till next week.